Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's Frank, your host, here on American Eagle Rises. Take two. The computer and the damn camera had a bad lag, so we said, you know what, we're starting over. Just recently got done with dinner from a walk. It's hot today at work. Oh my god. Go, go, go. I'm exhausted. When's it going to be Friday? Yeah, so shenanigans continue. Communists have won LA. We'll see what the Marines do in response. We'll see what else happens. I believe Chicago, I think that's already kind of started a little bit there. We'll see where the communists, I think the communists are poking their heads in New York. I expect Philadelphia. Let's see here. What next? Probably San Francisco, because that's a turd town anyway. It's shit, right? Probably Seattle, Portland. I don't know. Those are just, those are already they've been communist for years. So I'm surprised those places haven't burned to the ground already. But maybe it's always raining in Seattle. Probably one of the major cities in Texas. Pick your poison. Dallas, Houston. I'd probably say Dallas. I'm not sure about Fort Worth, even though they're right next to each other. Let's see, what other big cities? Oh God, I'm surprised it hasn't happened. Minneapolis. Did I already say Philly? We already had New York, so those are the big ones, I think. Maybe Boston, but I don't know. Boston's kind of, I don't want to say sleepy town, but yeah, guys, the communists are getting paid 12 grand a week. 12 grand a week! That's more than I make all fucking month! What the shit? Imagine being some 21-year-old, oh yeah. The shit, man. Get your ass working, man. It's a protesting. There's a handful of true protesters out there, right? But man, I'm telling you, they're probably little, right? So everyone's getting paid, and look at the damn politicians in California. Look at them all. They're all yeah, we're not gonna uphold the law. They broke the law, so we're gonna stop you from enforcing the law. That's what's going on, guys. What a bullshit. I don't want to keep talking about it because I'll just get all. Don't get me out of retirement. Dad, what kid? Can you send the Valkyries? I don't have that pull. God said not yet. Oh damn it. God, yeah. So I just had my dad ask God to send the Valkyries, but not yet. Come on, God. I'm sick and tired of waiting. So let us look at. That's the biggest news, guys, I think. Again, go to the store. Again, I'm not trying to be alarmist. It just makes sense, right? I doubt this is going to go on for, for a month or anything like that. Obviously, you might have I call them little gophers. I remember that gopher game? The gopher pops up and you come down and another one pops up over here. Well, we might have some of that going, that shenanigans, right? But this is the weekend. You guys picked a shitty weekend too. We got a military parade to signify our standing army, the United States Army's 250th birthday. Happy birthday, American Army. God damn it, man. Keep it going, man. Keep it going, man. God damn. I love our military, man. We need more veteran support, and like I said, I'm not a warmonger. I believe in strong, and I mean goddamn strong defense, so that no country is stupid enough to pick a fight. The problem is, you know, bad actors have been using our defense for, let's just say, other purposes, to kind of put little money in their back pocket, at our dime and, frankly, unfortunately, a lot of people's lives, right? So, anyway, but in a true world, our military would only be used for defense. We shouldn't have all these damn bases, but we have them, so we can't just, abandon overnight. But yeah, I think we need to get out of the business of getting in other people's businesses, if you know what I mean, right? We still need, the problem is that we're still going to need a large Navy. If anything, probably need to put more into that, unfortunately. We have the biggest Navy, longest reaching Navy as well, with all of our damn carriers. Anyway, I could go on about carriers too, man. That's another damn bucket list, guys. I want to be on one. I want to be on one of the big ones too, not the old ones from World War II, although that would be cool. All right, guys. So outside of that, there wasn't any great news. Outside of that, I'm gonna do a little market update, and there's an article to go with it. So I gotta put my glasses on. Apologize. Now I'm even uglier. Whatever, dude. Yeah, hey, where did it go? Oh, there it is. Oh, it's in, yeah, okay. So, the overall markets really didn't do a lot. Sorry, guys, I'm dying on screen. Yeah, alright, here we go. That's what we wanted to do. Yeah, okay, sorry, guys. Had to do that real quick. Come on, move over here. Alright, we're ready to rock. Yeah, so the S&P down just 0.25%. That's nothing. But the 10-year Treasury actually went down 6 basis points. I think it was actually down a little bit more over the course of the day. But so that's hovering at 4.41. That's actually a good place for it. Below 4.5. We really don't want it to go significantly up, or if we saw a significant down yield, that might be a different story. But yeah, doesn't seem to be any liquidation event yet. We'll see. Yeah, so in the Dixie, the relative strength of the dollar did go down to 98.5. So it's kind of near its bottom. That's been kind of support level for the dollar lately. So on that news, for some reason, Bitcoin went down. It's at 108 and some change, 108K and some change. And gold actually went up just a little bit. Yeah, it hasn't really recovered from last couple of days, but it's still stair-stepping. It's following the 50-day moving average pretty. Like I said, this shit looks like it looks like computers. It's pretty. It's on there. It touches the 50 and then just comes right off of it. And then if it exceeds over for a while, then it comes back down to it. So, and for some weird reason, SLV has to go down. Whoops, Frank. Yeah, whatever. I'm pretty sure silver's going to get. Now, I know we don't really talk about strategies, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, but just for your awareness and for entertainment purposes only, depends on the month. I don't recall June being a big, they call them silver squeeze. It's the big banks, like JP Morgan is the biggest offender of them all. That's why we hate that bank, even though we got a bank account with them. They won't allow that bank to fail. Jamie Dimon won't allow it. Yeah, so where are we going? They short the stock, so they sell contracts that they don't have. And it suppresses the price down. And then some, or if it's going up, like what they really like to do is they like to see silver actually go up organically. And then they start buying or they start selling a whole bunch of contracts short. And that price keeps coming down, and there's not enough buyers, and the price sinks even further. And then they actually buy their shares back and balance out their short position. So, but what happens every once in a while, they have too many short contracts out. I'm trying to remember, like Wall Street Silver or something. They try to, because you can go online, you see how many open contracts there are. And I used to follow this stuff a little closer than what I do now. It's just you're trying to. It's like you're in Vegas and you think you're gonna beat the house, right? That's how I see it. It's just even if you win, you lose, right? Just yeah, but sometimes they're in weird months. Like typically, like in the late March. That's like a big one. But pretty much, I thought it was every 15th and end of the month. So the 15th's coming up here, right? So that's kind of, Monday's the 16th. So I don't know. Is there gonna? Oh shit! This Friday's is Friday the 13th. You guys remember what movie that was from? Had a guy named Jason. Yeah. So what were we talking about? Oh yeah, silver. So I don't think there's gonna be any move into that, but we'll see. If the price significantly goes down in SLV, that means J.P. Morgan and them is throwing short contracts. They want to suppress it. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know that. There's people that go into that, but I don't really remember June being that much. Anyway, we babbled way too long on that, and that was for entertainment purposes only. So let us go back to the original thing that we wanted to talk about. So basically the biggest news today, and the reason why I wanted to go over it was there's this article. What is this from? MT Newswires. Yeah, I don't know who freaking wrote this thing. So it says, update gold steady as the dollar and yields fall as U.S. inflation slowed last month. So the falling dollar would mean, well, gold should go up, right? But the yield going down should mean the gold goes up as well. So yeah, this should actually be positive news. But if it's we'll get into it here. So it said gold futures was steadily mid-afternoon Wednesday as the dollar and yields fell after U.S. report showed U.S. inflation eased last month. Gold for August delivery was last seen up 60 cents. That's it. Up to 33.21 per troy ounce. It says per ounce, but that's troy ounce. You buy it in troy ounces. So the U.S. BLS, they lie through their teeth, reported that May Consumer Price Index, the CPI, rose by 0.1% in May from April, down from a 0.2 pace a month earlier and under the consensus estimate for a 0.2 rise, according to Market Watch. Aha, so that's what it is. So it's actually a beat. So that means that's actually kind of, well, it's good, I guess. Depends on which side of the trade are you on. But for us, right, we don't want our we want inflation. Number one, we need inflation to be zero, but we actually need inflation to go negative. That means prices are actually coming down. So when inflation is zero, that means prices are the same, like a heartbeat. That when you're dead, right? I guess we don't want a heartbeat that's dead. Yeah. So if it's still positive, it just means prices are not going up as fast as they were. So I don't know. Maybe inflation's finally like it's really not going up. It's not really going down a lot. So yeah. But anyway, it continues. Core CPI, excluding volatile food and energy costs. Well, that's what we're worried about. The hell, rose 0.1 monthly. All right, down from 0.2 April. While the consensus estimate predicted a 0.3 rise, so they actually, okay. So from that perspective, it really beat. Gold rise comes despite cooling international tension as the United States and China agreed to a framework deal following 2 days of talk in London that will see the two countries ease export controls on strategic items including Chinese rare earths and U.S. semiconductors. That's a pretty big deal. So what it is we need their rare earth stuff, right, for all sorts of things, right? And if you guys, all you China bulls, like, you gotta wake up. But the United States still somehow still has some leading high-end semiconductors. So Chinese dominates the lower, right? Like the real easy stuff, right? The stuff that you can make tons of, right? It kind of makes sense. Could the United States make those? Yes, but there's like no money to be made in them anyway, and you have to make them at mass scale, and that's what that's China's wheelhouse, right? We go for more of the high end market, right? Because you can get a bigger margin of return, right? So that's where, but China can't make those, right? That's why that's why they keep talking about taking Taiwan. Taiwan has. They're the other competitor. So between the United States and Taiwan, I mean, that's like pretty much the entire high-end market for semiconductors. So it's getting to the point where we can almost label these as strategic, like, yeah, like, petroleum could be a strategic reserve. Yeah, we can. Anyway, it says gold traded higher despite U.S. agreeing to ease trade tensions with focus on today's U.S. inflation print. Investors' appetite for U.S. 10-year notes being auctioned today continued central bank demand and ongoing demand for investment metals. The dollar moved lower following the inflation report, and the index had less, being down half a point to 98.59. That's what we mentioned earlier. Treasury yields were sharply lower with the U.S. 2-year note. Oh, okay, that's not a note. That's a bill. That's a bill. They lied. Last seen paying 3.962. Oh, that's funny. I can get a 1-month Treasury bill for more. So the curve is not. That's weird. It's not inverted or whatever. Reinvert. Anyway, down 7 basis points. While the yield on a 10-year Treasury note dropped to 5.9 points to 4.421. All right, so the long end is still higher than the short end. They do have 5-year, but they don't really show 5-year. It'd be interesting to see what the 1 month is. I think the 1 months are floating around 4-ish. So the 1 month and the 2-year are almost the same. So that's like a norm. Well, it's pretty much a flat curve actually. But what they don't want is an inverted curve where the long end yields are lower than the short term. That means there's a liquidity event. That's why it's always a concern, right? Because if you're selling bonds, you're trying to get cash, and the yields, right, go up. So that's typically why they worry about when yields start spiking out of control. Is that it looks like people need institutions need money, like actual cash on hand so they can make payments. So anyway, It was interesting to note that they mentioned, what was it here? Yeah, investor appetite for U.S. 10-year trade. So I think it was last week. Um, the Treasury had a little bit of problem. I kind of sometimes have this crazy talk that I do. Yeah, so there wasn't too many buyers. So there wasn't, the auctions kind of went pretty bad. But the Federal Reserve just went, oh, sure, we'll just buy our own. So the Federal Reserve just, they bought their own notes, which is kind of funny, right? Like they lent the money to the government, and the government has these IOUs. And then the Federal Reserve said, I guess we got to buy our own shit. The Federal Reserve doesn't like doing that, by the way. They will do it because they know the way that the scam or the scheme, I call it both, right? It's a scheme, but it's a scam. So the way that it works, the way that the Federal Reserve gets its money, which it doesn't have money. It's a private institution. So the way they get money, but then it goes to these other banks and just, it's gone. You can't find it, right? Who knows where this shit goes, right? It's probably funding the protests. Probably. But if they, I don't know. I don't know if the Federal Reserve would want to do that, because then their cash cow would be destroyed. So that would be very interesting. Then again, the Federal Reserve, they won't say it, but they wouldn't mind having a digital CBDC and, put the crap on your phone. Use some biometric, maybe you gotta put something, right there, I don't know, if you're crazy, maybe you put it there. But, where was I going with this? So anyway, so the Federal Reserve will never run out of money coming in, right? They just want money coming. Like, they don't care about the size of the debt. They only care in so much that the government can't pay the interest. Because the Federal Reserve does not care if the actual number comes down. And the Federal Reserve actually has a book that they show, like, what they hold, right? They call it the balance sheet. Right? That just means how much debt instruments they actually purchase. So they want it to be zero, right? Because they don't want to have it, right? They just want the money to come in, and they want to use it, right? They're like that little blood-sucking thing, right? And they just want to keep sucking it, right? They just want, anyway. So the U.S. government, right? So the government never has enough money. It's always running a deficit. So this is why the U.S. government doesn't, U.S. government doesn't care about the deficit, but this is why the Federal Reserve might get pissy if we actually do something about the deficit. So if the government has a deficit, it has to make up that amount, right? So they go to the Federal Reserve, they go to the Treasury, and they're like, hey, please, right? So the Treasury goes, hey, okay, Federal Reserve, we need $1 trillion, right? So the Federal Reserve goes, well, here's your $1 trillion. It's like pulling it out of your butt. Here you go, right? But it's like an IOU, right? Like, this is how you get a mortgage, right? So, but when they do that, there's an interest fee, right? Like, kind of like a credit card. So every year they got to keep doing that. That's why the debt keeps going higher, right? The Federal Reserve doesn't, like I said, it doesn't necessarily. Now, if the interest rate, right, let's say the interest rate is too high, well, then the government can't pay the money, and the government's like, ooh. That's what the Federal Reserve doesn't want that to happen. But then that's when the Federal Reserve might be like, oh, we got to buy these assets. So then they end up buying their own shit back. So there's actually, for years, they've been talking about how there could be this mechanism through the Treasury if somehow and I've heard it for years. I want this to happen. I just don't know if it'll ever happen. But you could remonetize, or how does it go? You could basically it's a currency. I don't want to call it reset. It's a revaluation. So if you read the Constitution, we're only supposed to have gold and silver as money. Now, you could have a replacement good, because that's how receipt money, that's how money, like paper money came into being, that was your receipt. Your gold was in this bank. You go to another bank, the Knights Templars made this up. It facilitated trade. It was actually ingenious, but there's always dark sides to everything, right? So you go to another bank somewhere else, right? And they would, they're like, oh yeah, this is the receipt, right? And then, oh, here's your gold. So you didn't have to physically hold it on you, right? So the founding fathers called it credit. So it can't be credit. Well, guess what? Our dollar bill it's debt, which means it's credit, meaning I don't even own it. I'm getting a loan, right? Because they knew what would happen with this. But anyway, so if we said, all right, we're going to back our dollar by gold, it would be kind of crazy. You technically don't need a shitload of gold. What you do need is that you need a price per ounce of gold higher based on the old currency, right? Because you're going to issue new currency, so you got to trade it, right? So you would be doing you would have to be like, all right, how much debt do we have, right? And then you're like, oh, okay, how much gold is in Fort Knox, right? That's why it's important to know how much gold is at Fort Knox. Because if there's zero there, then yeah, it's gonna be bad. But in theory, right? Let's say it's there, and they claim there's X amount, right? So you would take that, and then there's a backing percentage. Because in the past, I think we backed it by like 50%. It's supposed to be 100%, but so if you did that, gold would be something like 25 grand or something like that, if you were gonna try to do this. So, but you could. So then what would happen is the government would not need to borrow any more new currency, and because of that, you could have the mint, the U.S. Treasury, and then bring the mint into it. I mean, the mint's part of this anyway, but then the U.S. Mint through the Treasury would issue the new currency, and the Federal Reserve would be out to dry. Now it's life, it's blood, it's blood. It's like, there's no more blood, and then the Federal Reserve dies. There's a good book. There's a couple good books. I think Ron Paul had a good one. He's called End the Fed. There's another one, like A Case for Gold. There's a couple of these. They've been out for quite some time, but oh Pete. The video is longer than we thought, guys. So anyway, I got a little passionate about that, but I thought I would only be an extra couple minutes, but whoops. As usual, I kept just going and going and going. But anyway, I hope it was very entertaining. If you made it this far, thank you so much for continuing to support the channel and checking me out. We're still having difficulties growing the channel. It's not easy getting on here every day, guys. I got a busy work schedule. I come here and then I try to do one little thing before relaxing. It's almost 8 o'clock now. I haven't even done the 10-15 minutes to play Magic the Gathering on my computer. I really want to play the actual game with the physical cards, but I don't know. This weekend probably be busy. I don't know. We'll figure. Tomorrow maybe we'll figure some stuff out. Maybe it's gonna rain part of the weekend. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, folks, keep it real. Make sure you stock up on your essentials. Okay. Make sure you got like 2 weeks worth. All right. See ya. Bye.